If you want to solve Sudoku like no one else, you have to be willing to make sacrifices that others won't make. I became a successful puzzle solver mainly because I avoided the 3 pitfalls I am sharing today, so you can avoid them too. And with that, it's solving time. Pitfall number 1 is to only consider candidates one at a time. If you looked at where a 4 can be here in block 1, you'd notice with this 4 and this 4, the 4's going to go right there. However, look a little bit further, you'll notice that there's a 6 in the row and in the column as well. So that means the 4 and 6 are both restricted to these 2 cells in block 1. And now that you know that, it's going to be a key to breaking into this puzzle. Greetings, friend. It is so easy to get stuck on a puzzle and feel like you're not learning anything or that you wasted your time. This Sudoku from the 2025 MIT Open is perfect to show you 3 pitfalls to avoid that I've learned from solving thousands of classic Sudokus. It's going to give you the confidence to solve any puzzle. So pitfall number 1 is to only consider candidates one at a time. Pitfall number 2 is to miss the impact of your previous solve. So I said finding this 4-6 hidden pair is a key to breaking into this puzzle. So what does that mean? You have to look at the impact on the row, the column, and the block. So if you look in the block, you'll notice there's only 4 more cells to fill out, a 1, 2, 3, or a 5. With this 3, you can remove the 3's from right there. You can remove the 2 because of the 2 in the row. You can remove the 1 because of the 1 in the row. And you can remove the 5's here and the 1 because of the 1 in the column. And what does that do? That's the impact on the block. Now look at what it does in the column. You'll notice now the 5's are restricted to these 2 cells in block 1. They're in the same column, column 3, which means now a 5 can't be anywhere else along the column because of this pointing pair. If you put a 5 here or here, no place to put a 5 in block 1 now. And that's important to notice because you build some restriction down here. But if you look at the 3's, let's look across the row now, impact on the row. With these 3's are also a pointing pair. So now a 3 can't be here, here, or here in the row. And what does that do to block 3 now? Well, with these 2 3's, and now that a 3 can't be here, you can actually solve your first cell with a 3 right there in the corner. Bum, bum, bum. And now you want to apply this again. By using this and putting that 3 there, what does it impact on row, column, and block to block 3? Well, with this 8 and this 8, there's only one place to put an 8 in block 3. It's right there. And then what you might notice is you have a 1, 2, 3 in the block, 4, 5, 6, and 8 in this row. They all look at these 2 cells. So what could those 2 cells be? They can't be a 1, 2, or 3, 4, 5, 6, or an 8. They can only be a 7 or a 9. And so you can mark that as a 7, 9 naked pair, which restricts these 2 cells now to a 4, 6 naked pair. And so you're looking at the impact, row, column, and block. And now you want to come back to this column, this 4, 6, and just kind of follow these corners here. Now that you put a 4, 6 here, what does that do as you head on down here to block 9? Well, 4 and a 6 can't be there. You already had the 6 here. This can't be a 4 anymore. And with this 4 and 5, they can't be in those 2 cells. Well, this pointing pair of 4's from the naked pair along with the 5 also come down the column. So where can the 4, 5 be in block 9? They can only be in these 2 cells. So you found another hidden pair. And the only way to see this is looking at impact, row, column, and block. And then what does that do for our puzzle? Well, you'll notice now with these 2 8's, you can solve this cell now for an 8, which leaves you with a 1, 7, 9 naked triple in block 9, but also 1, 7, 9 naked triple in column 7. I'll remove the colors here. And you want to see the impact of this. Because of this 9, that can't be a 9. And so where are the 9s in block 9 now? They're restricted right here. So they're a pointing pair of 9s in column 7 and block 9. If they're a pointing pair of 9s, the 9 can't be anywhere else outside the block. You can't put a 9 here because then you have no place to put a 9 in block 9. So you can remove the 9 here and look at the impact. You can solve this now for a 1, which gives you a nice 7, 9 naked pair, and the only place now for a 1 in block 9 is right there. And it's almost time to reveal my third pitfall. Before I do, I want you to know one of the reasons I love Sudoku is that it keeps my brain sharp, like a mental workout. But sometimes I want to go beyond puzzles and stretch my thinking in other ways too. And that's where today's sponsor, Brilliant, comes in. Brilliant helps you get smarter every day with thousands of interactive lessons in math, science, programming, and more, all designed to build your problem-solving skills. What I love about Brilliant is how hands-on it is. Instead of just watching videos, you're actually solving problems as you learn. It's the same logic-based thinking I use in Sudoku, but applied to topics like statistics, logic, and even AI. And because the lessons are quick and mobile-friendly, I can fit one in every day right alongside my morning coffee or Sudoku. Lately, I've been enjoying their logic and everyday math courses. They're perfect if you love thinking through challenges step by step, just like we do here at Smart Hobbies. To try everything Brilliant has to offer for 30 days, visit brilliant.org/smarthobbies or just scan the QR code on the screen. You'll also get 20% off your annual premium subscription. A big thanks to Brilliant for sponsoring this video and for helping all of us keep our minds sharp. So pitfall number 3 is to not have a move forward strategy. If you're just solving through and looking at row, column, block, that is great and it'll get you so far, but at some point the row, column, block is going to dry up. You got to figure out what you're going to do next, and I'll help you understand that. So you can apply row, column, block here to row 7, and you might notice that you have a 1, 2, 4, 5, 8, 9. You need a 3, 6, and 7. Well, with these two 7s in columns 1 and 4, the only place to put a 7 is right there, and that'll give you a 3, 6 naked pair. And then with this 7 and the 7 in block 1, you can solve for a 7 now in block 4. And this is going to dry up there. So you got to have a plan. And so the two things I do when the RCB starts to dry up is I, 1, look for heavy houses, and 2, I look to clean up blocks where I've made marks. Both of those represent your greatest restrictions, right? Heavy houses are rows, columns, and blocks that have at least 5 cells filled out. And then where you've made marks is usually where you only have 2 or 3 most possibilities for a candidate. So if you can eliminate one of those, or 2, you can solve those cells right away. So let's start here in column 3. You notice it's a heavy house now that we have 5 digits filled out. 3, 4, 6, 7, and 8. So all you have left is a 1, 2, 5, and 9. Well, since the 5s are a pointing pair and it can't be down here, and you have a 1 right there, this is actually a 2, 9 naked pair for block 7. And so what does that impact in column 3? This can no longer be a 2. So you can solve this cell now for a 5 and solve that for a 1. And you can remove the 1 from right there, and you have a 2, 3 naked pair. Now go back to the other pitfalls. Look at impact, row, column, block. Look at more than one digit at a time. We can solve 1s and 5s here. If we just notice, these two 1s allow you to solve for a 1 right here in block 2. And then these 5s also allow you to solve for a 5 there in block 2. And after looking at that, look at the impact now on row 1. Remember, we found these 4 6s. Well, they act as a naked pair. The only thing left up here is a 7 and an 8. You have a 7 right here. You can solve this cell now for a 7 and solve this for an 8. And so we're taking advantage of those hidden pairs, naked pairs you found early on. Now look and see what heavy house you created in column 6. We have 5 digits filled out. 1, 5, 4, 5, 6, and 9. You just need a 2, 3, 7, and 8. You might notice with the 2, 7, 8 right here, you can solve that for a 3. And then with these two 8s, you can solve this for an 8, which just leaves you with a 2 and a 7. And with this 7, that's got to be your 2. That's got to be your 7. And then you can put a 3, 9 right here, and you're going to see, well, that kind of dried things up. So where do you go from here? Remember, you also want to look at clean up your marks. Since you put a 7 there, what's the impact? You can disambiguate the 9, 7 right there. Look across with this 9. Now that's a 2 and that's a 9. See how the impact works, and you can immediately start solving those cells. And now as you look, you see there's a lot of empty cells here in the middle, right? Blocks 4, 5, and 6. We're making quite a bit of progress down here in block 7, 8, 9. So you want to keep your focus down here. This is where there's more restriction. You got a 1, 2, 4, 7, 8, 9 in block 7. So you just need a 3, 5, and a 6 here. This can't be a 3 because of the 3 in the row, and this can't be a 6 because of 6 in the row. You might notice now the 6s are a pointing pair. They're restricted in column 1 here in block 7, which means this can no longer be a 6. Look at that impact. That's a 4, that's a 6, which means this is going to be a 6, and that's going to be a 4. But this is still kind of dried up here, so you need to come on back down and see what else you can do. You got a heavy house now here in row 9. What does that mean? Well, you got a 1, 3, 7, 8, 9. You just need a 2, 4, 5, and a 6. Well, 2, 5, 6 right here means this has to be your 4, which allows you to disambiguate the 5, 4 right there. And with this 5, you know, that's a 6, that's a 3, and that's going to be a 5. You have a heavy house down here. Actually, a full house. You only have one remaining digit. You know for certain you can solve this for a 2. And then this has to be a 6 because of the 3 right there. Now look at the impact up here. You'll notice with the 3, disambiguate the 2 and the 3 right there. What does this leave you here? Looks like you get a 1 and a 3. Can't quite solve that yet. So now you got to wonder, where do you go from here? Well, now you got to focus on this middle band here. Blocks 4, 5, and 6. What appears the most? The 7s and the 6s. Well, with these two 7s, you can put 7s there, but you're not going to be able to solve just yet. But if you look at the 6s, and this is how you get to solving these puzzles. Look for the greatest restriction. There's only one place to put a 6. Now you can put a 6 right there. Okay, and then how does that help you? You notice now with this 6, you put more stress and restriction on column 8. You now have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8. You need a 5, 7, and a 9. Well, with the 5, 7 right there, that's got to be your 9, which allows you to disambiguate the 7, 9 right here. And now you know this has got to be your 5, displacing that 7. Awesome. And now what do you have here? You got just a 2 and 4 remaining with this 4. That's got to be your 4. That's got to be your 2. And now we can look over here by adding these extra digits. You can solve all 3 of these cells. At this point in the solve, if you can solve a clump of 2, 3 digits together, you're going to be solving much quicker. I use what's called my neat naked triple trick. What you need in column 1 is a 1, 5, and a 9. Well, you have the 9 and the 5. Look at this cell. And the 5 repeats. Whenever you have that situation, you can solve all 3. This has to be your 1. The only place the 5 goes right there, and this is going to be your 9. And now use that. Look at the restriction here in block 5. With those two 1s, that has to be a 1. With these 9s, this has to be a 9, and that leaves you with a 8. Look at the impact above and below with that 9. That's a 3, that's a 9. And then with this 1, that's a 3, that's a 1. And then you just have 3 cells remaining here. You just need a 2, a 4, and an 8. So I'm going to use that neat naked triple trick again. 8 and 4 right there. 8 repeats, solve all 3. That's got to be your 2. The 8 can only go here, and this has to be your 4. Now see if you can avoid the 3 most common pitfalls in this next puzzle. Thank you so much for watching.